Woman on the Beach. Quite a number of years ago, I worked in the island of Grenada, the Caribbean, not far from Venezuela, not far from Trinidad. I was a very lucky man back there then, because I went to Grenada maybe 48 times over 8 years. I'd go about 6 times a year for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. It was such a lovely place to go. One of the most beautiful beaches in the world is called Grand Anse Beach. And I worked with a couple of hundred people, date entry operators mostly, and most of them were women. And they were so fine, so wonderful to work with. What charming people. Such a privilege for me. And luckily, I somehow attracted the telephone companies in America, and they gave us tons of work. We would microfilm the work in America and then send it down to Grenada, and the young ladies, primarily young ladies, would key the information onto computer readable material, initially IBM cards, and then it became just the discs. And in this particular moment, I was given a job by the Connecticut Telephone Company, Southern New England Bell, I think it was called. Quite a large job. We were converting all of the telephones in the state. And very often, a person from the company would come down to spend time to teach us. And this time, Ed Correo came down. Remember him quite well. And this was on a Saturday. It was about 6 o'clock, and at the end of the day, we were walking along the beach. Our hotel was on the beach. It was on Grand Anse Beach. What a beautiful beach, about 2 miles long. Sand was just perfect. When you walked into the water, it was all sand. It was not coral and not rock. What a lovely place to go swimming. Well, 6 o'clock at night, we weren't swimming, but we were just going for a walk at the end of the day. And he was about 50 yards ahead of me, and an old woman, looked like an old woman, came up to him. And she was dressed in rags. And he just totally ignored her. She started to talk to him, and he just walked away from her. And then she came to me, and I was pretty much going to ignore her too, because, the island had a lot of beggars, and I just was tired. But she came over to me, and she looked at me, and she said, I had a dream this week, and you and your friend were in my dream. And the both of you were on a bird, very big bird, and you flew to the island of Carriacou. Well, Carriacou is the next island up from Grenada. And I don't know about you, but if somebody walks over to you and says you were in a dream, you might stop and listen. So I did. I looked at her curiously, and I listened to her. And then she started to talk to me about herself. And she said that she was carrying in one hand a cloth and in the other hand a bucket. And she said she's so lucky to find these because she's going to wash the cloth and she's going to use it in church on Sundays because people get all excited and they jump up and down and they sweat profusely. And she's going to use the cloth to wipe them down. And the bucket, she said, is so wonderful too because she's going to put seawater into the bucket and use it for the baptismal services. She was so thrilled to find a rag and a bucket. Well, as we talked, she at first told me her troubles, and the troubles was that a couple left the island and moved to Great Britain and left their dog. And she said, how could people do that? How can they just desert a dog? And she said, look, I have nothing, and I can't let the dog starve. And that was her trauma. We're walking along, and she's talking, and just the two of us, and all of a sudden, there's 3 people talking. Not Ed, because he was very far ahead of us, but 3 of us. Me and her and Jesus. Now, I didn't see Jesus, and I didn't hear Jesus, but she did. It was real as real could be. This 3-way conversation was going on. She was talking to God while she was talking to me. It was an amazing moment. It never happened to me before. Then after a while, conversation stopped, and I didn't know what to do. Excuse me. I put my hand in the pocket, took out some money, and I gave her the money. She says, look, I don't want any money from you. I don't want money. And then she stopped and said, look, well, I don't want any money from you, believe me. But I know if I take the money, you'll get it back tenfold. So she said, I'll do it for you. That was a very amazing moment for me, to see this woman who had nothing materially, absolutely nothing, dressed in rags, not knowing how she's going to eat the next day. And yet she had such an amazing spirit. She, to me, was richer than all of these millionaires I've met in my life. I mean, the big worry she had was the dog. That was all. It was an amazing moment to see the spirit that is in people when they have this deep belief. Thank you for listening. Take care.